Yo. Just trying to finish my sandwich. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me? Welcome to the stream. Let me know if the music is too loud. Anyway, welcome to the stream. Don't have anything very specific planned. I just, as the title said, we can do a very chill questions and comments stream, which is what I do much of the time. How's my weekend? My weekend was pretty cool. All my weekends are generally okay because my weekends are full of tabletop role-playing games, because that's kind of, I guess it's like the main hobby that I have right now. But I play D&D every Saturday, and it's always fun. And then I play in a Vampire the Masquerade game on Sundays. Although I didn't play yesterday but I did watch. I watched some people play, so that was fun. So that's usually how my weekends go, and it's always fun. Favorite type of sandwiches? I don't know if that is a. I don't know if that's a choice I can make. I'm a big fan of sandwiches, and I don't know. I don't know if I can say my favorite because there's so many different good types, and you can customize them really well, and create things that don't even really have a name besides just like regular sandwich. And then there's, there's like classics like Philly cheesesteak or po' boys. But at home, I just make just kind of whatever I have in the fridge type sandwiches. Could be anything from mushrooms to spinach. Generally, I like to put lettuce and tomato, but you never know. Bacon, ham, turkey, chicken. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think I could pick one. Any new hobbies lately? Nothing new. I've been playing D&D for the past few years. That's kind of like the main hobby I have now. It's like that and specific video games and chess, I guess. Those are kind of the main things I do. Is alcohol worse than weed, and should it be illegal instead? Well, I don't think that either of them should be illegal, but I think alcohol is definitely potentially more harmful to people than weed is, for sure. Playing D&D in 30 minutes? Great. Have fun. Make a video about fetishization. I've made a couple of videos that touch into that, including one of my more recent videos called Positive Stereotypes. So you can check that one out. You can also check an older video about racial dating preferences. If I could live in any fictional universe, what would I choose? I would live in pretty much any Miyazaki universe because they're usually pretty nice. Nothing bad ever happens. Well, that's not true, but it depends on the movie. Like in My Neighbor Totoro, which is maybe my favorite one. It's just a cool movie where nothing bad happens. That sounds perfect. Do I speak another language? Not really. I know a little bit of Spanish, but not enough to Spanish. I said Spanish. I think I'm still thinking of sandwich. But I know a little bit of Spanish, but not enough to really to say that I can speak it. Favorite Pac song? I don't know. I think my favorite Tupac song, at least in terms of the sound of it, is probably Hail Mary, but it's not a song that I really relate to. Why would you stream during the same window as new Contra video drop? I wasn't aware that Contra videos drop. If you want to go watch that, I encourage you to do that. It is almost certainly better content than this. So if you guys want to go watch Contra's new video, I truly think you should do that. But the thing about that video is it will still be there after the stream. Are you happy Orange Man is out of office? I am happy that Trump is not the president anymore, yes. I've been dipping Chips Ahoy and Cool Whip all night. That sounds like it's probably good. What campaign am I running or playing? I am running Storm King's Thunder, although at this point it is pretty much just homebrew. Like, it is like very, very loosely following that story, but most of it is homebrew. What's up, Nolan? Have I visited Mexico? No. What's up, Shadowcat? I'm gonna start streaming soon. How do you find copyright-free hip-hop music? Well, I'm lucky enough that my brother is a hip-hop producer, so I can just ask him to make stuff for me. Beyond that, you're just gonna have to do some Googling and do some searching. One thing I know of, I mean, it's not like a sponsorship, I have no affiliation, but there's this thing called Stream Beats, which was made specifically for streamers and YouTubers. It's just completely copyright-free music. You just have to, it's on like Apple Music and Spotify and also on YouTube. The problem is things like Spotify and Apple Music themselves cost money. So that's the only thing. But the songs themselves are copyright free. I've made comments that haven't appeared on screen. If they haven't appeared, that means that probably YouTube has filtered them for whatever reason. So if you go to the chat box, you should see that there's a thing that says top chat, and you can change it to live chat. Top chat is sort of like YouTube's like filtered out version, and sometimes they filter out certain messages. And they're pretty strict about like filtering out. They pretty often filter out pretty innocuous messages. I can't really change that. I'm sorry. Maybe the robots thought that you said something potentially negative or offensive or something. I don't know. It depends. But there's a lot of false positives on that. And I do believe also the chat that appears on the actual stream, like right here, I believe that's top chat, not live chat. So some of that will be filtered out as well. What are my pronouns? My pronouns are he, him. I have not watched Attack on Titan, although people have been telling me to watch it for years. So maybe I should watch it. Oh, the new Contra video isn't even up yet? So what's the big deal? Did she say that it was going to drop soon? I just found your channel today and I really like how you approach subjects. Is there any creators like you that you like to shout out? Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by like me, but the aforementioned ContraPoints is really good. But you probably all know who ContraPoints is. I guess I would shout out Cat Black. Jose is really good. Big Joel is pretty good. As far as people who make videos in a similar vein to me, like this sort of like video essay style, making reasonable arguments about things. How am I today? I'm pretty good. I've had a weird sleep schedule lately, but that's kind of my fault. Some days I just like stay up past sunrise and it throws off my sleep schedule. I should just sort of make myself go to bed early, but sometimes I don't want to. What's up, Minty? I've only seen a little bit of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It seemed cool though. Have I ever gotten upset by the comments on some of my videos? I mean, yeah. I mean, people leave shitty comments sometimes. I think my comment section is a lot better than a lot of other people's though. But that's just natural. Sometimes people leave shitty comments that are unpleasant. I've never seen Yu Yu Hakusho. I don't watch anime. That's the thing. I can't answer questions about anime because I don't really watch it. Although I've kind of said recently that I'm going to start giving it more of a chance because I kind of just wrote off anime because a lot of the anime that I watched over the years has just been like really weird and bad to me. So I was like, I don't know, maybe this anime stuff is not for me. But I'll probably give it another chance at some point. Do debates? Question mark. Is that question, do I do debates or would I do debates? I think the answer to both of those is probably no, but it depends. What's up, Mars Bars? Advice for starting a channel. Well, the first thing is it depends on if you have any sort of experience in terms of making videos. If you have any sort of editing or performing experience, the advice is a little bit different. But if you don't have any experience, the number one thing I would say is just spend a lot of time working on your content and making it as good as you can. And that's going to take a long time. As with anything, when you're new to something, you're probably not going to be great at it when you first start. So you should give yourself time to learn how to be good at it, and that might take a long time, like upwards of a year or many years. Certainly took me several years, but I would say just make a lot of stuff and don't be too critical of it to begin with. Just practice and get better at it. So that's going to be the first thing that you work on. If you already kind of know how to make videos and it's a little bit different, I think in that case you should still work on the videos and make them as good as possible, because I think there's always room for improvement. And I think making quality videos is like the number one most important thing about any YouTube channel. But when you're pretty competent at it already, you can start thinking about the more like YouTube related stuff. Like, how can I get people to click on my videos? What kind of thumbnails? What kind of titles? Unfortunately, well, I don't even think it's unfortunate, but some people find it annoying. YouTube is all about click-through rate. It's all about getting people to click on your stuff. So you have to figure out how to get people to click on your stuff before they've even seen the video. And the main way you do that is through your titles and thumbnails. So it's essentially clickbait. YouTube is about clickbait. And a lot of people don't like clickbait. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but some people find it very offensive and annoying. And it can be over the top, but I mean, in my opinion, I feel like you should do whatever you need to do to get people to click on your stuff, as long as you're not being super misleading. And then from there, it just depends on what your goals are. If you just want to have a channel and build a community and have some fun, that's fine. If you're trying to make a career or business out of it, that's a whole different ballpark. What software do you use to edit your videos, and would you recommend it for someone interested in beginning to make video essays? As for right now, I use Sony Vegas. I'm looking to switch to something else though. Like I'm looking into DaVinci Resolve, because from what I've seen from it, it just has a lot of more quality of life improvements to other things. Seems pretty easy to get into. So, and also Sony Vegas is like notoriously buggy and it crashes all the time, and it's like, I don't know. But Sony Vegas is also very easy, so I would recommend it. I would just say you'll probably have to do a little bit of research in terms of how to get it running most efficiently. But another cool thing about Sony Vegas is it's very popular, and so there's an unending amount of resources and tutorials for Sony Vegas. So if you have a question about something with Sony Vegas, you should be able to find the answer. I think that Adobe Premiere is sort of considered like the industry standard or something. But Adobe Premiere is a lot less user-friendly, a lot less easy to learn off the top. But just like anything else, if you spend enough time with it, you can probably learn it. However, none of those are free. The basic version of DaVinci Resolve is free, however. So if you need something that is free, then you should go with DaVinci Resolve. And then maybe down the line, you can upgrade to DaVinci Resolve Studio, which is the paid version of it. But you can definitely get started with DaVinci Resolve. Do you have an opinion on millennial burnout? I don't know. I think you should be more specific. I don't know. Is that like a known phrase, like a well-known term that people use a lot? I don't know. How you've been holding up with COVID? I'm having a lot of frustration with others not distancing or masking. I mean, yeah, I think that people should definitely be taking it more seriously than they are. But at the same time, I do think that there's a level of educated risk that people can take. Like, I think it's unreasonable to ask everyone to just hold themselves up forever and never communicate or interact with anyone ever. It's just completely not a thing that humans are good at doing. So I think that you can take some intelligent, educated risks, like, if you have like a bubble of friends that don't interact that much. If you're, especially now that it's pretty easy to get tested, I think in most places, consistently getting that taken care of. But some people are, just being completely irresponsible, going to large crowded events, things of that nature. So that definitely is a problem. Me personally, I don't really I don't really leave my house that much. The main people that I interact with is my D&D group. We meet once a week, and it is pretty much all people who don't leave their house that much. And if there's any, even like a minor worry, everyone's encouraged to always get tested or quarantine for 2 weeks. So we take it pretty seriously, but you know, we take the very sort of cautious risk of meeting up once a week. YouTube creators talk sometimes about feeling embarrassed by their old videos. Have you gone back to any of your old videos and thought, hey, I still like this one a lot? Yeah, I mean, it depends on how old, but yeah, I mean, I think most of my videos from like 2017 or so and forward are probably still pretty good. There may be one or two that are kind of duds, but I think those are pretty good. And then there's some that are even older than that I still think are pretty good. But there are definitely a lot of them that are pretty cringy to me now, if I watch them now. Do I watch any leftist YouTube content? Every now and then, not a whole lot, because I don't really think that I'm the target audience for most leftist YouTube content, so it doesn't appeal to me that much. But sometimes there are people who say interesting things, and then there are sometimes people, there are videos made by people who are leftists, but the content itself is not particularly leftist. It's just more general. Like a good example of that, I think, is Sean, who, I mean, I think a lot of his videos obviously have a leftist tinge to it or whatever, but I don't think his videos are like designed to convince people to become socialists like a lot of other leftist channels. What's my favorite D&D class? By the way, I just put out a video. Called "I'm Taking a Break," but the video is actually just a long Q&A video, and it itself has a lot of answers to many questions that people have asked me, including the question, "What is my favorite D&D class?" My answer to that is, if I can say Dungeon Master, that's my answer, because that's my favorite thing to do. But if I'm implored to actually pick a class, and I just like this sort of up close and personal melee classes like Fighter and Barbarian and Rogue. Probably Fighter is my favorite out of the three, which I understand is often considered one of the more generic classes, but it's really fun. Really into anime except for Studio Ghibli films. Okay, hold on. I'm frozen. So I am I'm using a different setup, so I was hoping that there wouldn't be any issues. Okay. I don't know why that happened. Anyway. So yeah, I really like Studio Ghibli films. I feel like I'm out of focus. Hold on. The depth of field is really shallow, so I feel like I'm still out of focus. Fucking focus, bro. Wait, it's frozen again. Why is there always a problem? Okay. So I don't know if that's gonna keep happening. Anyway, I was just talking about Studio Ghibli, where, by the way, is the audio video in sync, by the way? Okay, that's gonna keep happening, it looks like. I don't know how to fix that. Okay, hold on. So I'm gonna I'm basically just gonna have to I'm gonna let me see if that works. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put it back to the old setup, because this new setup is messing up on me. But I am so that's, hold on. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that real quick. It'll probably take like 5 minutes. But I'm about to change the scene. Why is nothing working right now? Jeez. Holy moly. So I'm actually still here. I'm just like fixing this stuff. The video will return in about 5 minutes or so, but I can kind of still see stuff like what are your opinions on the creative liberties that Hamilton takes on problematic historical figures? Well, I've never seen Hamilton, but I mean, fiction, you're allowed to be creative in fiction, so I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I wonder if this, well, it's I was thinking this thing overheated, but it's not hot at all. Shit. I'm dropping stuff. Am I hyped for Natalie's video? Always. Natalie is the best YouTuber. Wait, I think I figured it out. I might be able to just plug this back in. I think that the plug came out, so it was just the battery was dying. I think. Could be wrong about that. Many in the secular community support Black Lives Matter, so why did you do a video crapping on atheists? Are you talking to me? That is definitely not a thing that I did. So I don't know if this is gonna fix it, but we'll give it a try. And if not, we'll just do it again. I think what happened is the plug came out. So so literally like the camera was dying. Anyway, did I get any mini painting done during my YouTube break? I haven't done I haven't done it in a while, but I'm gonna have to do some soon. I usually do it. I mean, I should do it in advance, but I usually do it based on need for my D&D game, and I haven't needed to do it for my D&D game. There's been a lot of, not necessarily downtime, but a lot of like planning in the D&D game, and not a lot of actual combat where I need to pull out the minis. But I probably should just do it in advance. That would be the more intelligent thing. But I will be doing some soon for sure. And also, I mean, I didn't really go too much into it in my video, but I'm taking a break. But I am also, one of the reasons I'm taking a break is because I have other stuff that I'm doing. So it's just been a lot of stuff at once. So there is some other things that are taking up my time. How are the WoW memes going? I've still been playing a bunch of WoW. I've mainly just been doing a lot of PvP. I play pretty casually. I don't have like a hardcore like guild or anything, but at this point I'm just like doing the raid every now and then. I think really at this point I'm just kind of waiting for the next raid, because I've done the raid a bunch of times. I like the raid a lot, but I've gotten about as far as I can get as a casual player. Like, in order for me to like advance even more, it's going to require me to get a little more hardcore about it, which I don't necessarily want to do. But I've been doing a lot of PvP. I'm trying to learn that. I once saw a Spanish girl say that certain words don't have as much political weight in other countries, so it's okay to say them in the political context of their country. Do you agree? I don't know. I think you have to give a more specific example. I also don't know that much about political situations in other countries, so it would be hard for me to even quantify that. What's bad with the anime you gave a shot, and is there any comparison to adult animation in the West? I kind of like analyzing media, but I notice a bit of cringe from time to time. Well, it's a little bit different because most animation in the West is made for children, and most of the adult animation is either most adult animation in the West basically mimics live action animation, just in an animated form. So like when you see something like The Simpsons or King of the Hill or Family Guy, these are shows that mimic live action sitcoms. And you can argue that shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons have become more and more exaggerated to the extent that they begin to mimic children's cartoons. I feel like anime is a lot different than that. But I think a lot of it is probably just because I'm used to Western shows. That could be it. But I find that a lot of anime has like really poor pacing. Like it's like really, really slow paced a lot of the time. I also find that a lot of anime is just way too cryptic and esoteric, and arguably sometimes doesn't make sense. Now listen, I enjoy a good plot that makes you think and makes you develop fan theories and things like that, but a lot of stuff just like makes no sense, and it's just like too cryptic. and I don't find that enjoyable. Almost as if on cue, Josh is here talking about A Bug's Life. It's almost like you were waiting for this conversation to start. Check out Tailspire. It's the best for remote D&D. I can look into it. Am I still playing League? I took a long break from League, but I've been recently playing it a little more. I've decided that I'm just gonna, I don't know, League of Legends makes me feel dumb. I don't like, I just have this, I just want to conquer the game. I think I talked about this on stream before. Like, I feel like the game shouldn't be as hard as it is. So I'm trying to like basically simplify everything and just try to make it as easy as possible for me. Lately, I've been only playing super easy champs like Garen and Malphite. Just trying to like steamroll the game. I've been doing pretty good so far. I didn't do so well in my placement matches, but so far I've been doing okay in rank. Does Ask Me Anything include asking about politics, social issues? Yeah, that is included in anything. If I have an answer for it, then I will try my best. But I think a lot of times people ask questions. Well, with politics, a lot of times people ask very broad questions that I either don't feel comfortable at answering, or I just can't answer because the question is too broad. Or they'll ask something like, "Hey, what do you think about racism?" It's like, I don't know, it's bad. Like, what do you want me to say? Or they'll ask me something like, how do you think that we can solve the political conflict in the Middle East? It's like, I don't fucking know that. Nobody knows that. Those are the only issues with political questions. But obviously I talk about politics a lot, so I'm clearly down to respond to questions about political questions. Yeah, usually a lot of adult animation for adults is just very I don't know, very vulgar, I guess. That's kind of, it's just, I think adults are sort of, they're attracted to the novelty of cartoon characters being obscene because we're used to cartoons being for kids. There are not too many like very sophisticated Western animations that are made for adults, but there are some out there. I think a lot of them appeared on Adult Swim. Shows like home movies and what was that one? I can't remember what it's called. It was a really good one. I just can't remember at all. But yeah, Adult Swim found a lot of those more sophisticated shows. But Adult Swim also has a lot of like weird, vulgar shows as well. A Bug's Life 2, the anime. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an anime version of A Bug's Life. Playing Ziggs York bot. That sounds pretty annoying to lane against. What are your thoughts on socialism? See, that's an example of like a really broad question. I think socialism applies to a lot of very different things. Well, not different, but it applies to a lot of things. It's a very generalized question. I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting. I'd like to hear people explain different ideas about it, but I feel like socialism is not just one thing. Do I have any D&D content? Not really. Well, I mean, no. I guess the answer is just no. The closest thing I've done to D&D content is I ran a D&D one-shot once on stream, but that was just once. But I'd like to get into more D&D content. I think what's more likely is instead of me making content, I will just appear in other people's content or help other people make content. And then maybe down the line I can start making my own stuff, but I think my time making content is kind of it's usually spent on my own stuff, on the stuff that I usually make. And I mean, you know, I could just start making D&D content, but most people who subscribe to me aren't subscribed to me because of D&D, so it wouldn't be like a very like lucrative thing, at least not at first. I don't know if socialism is a good economic system or not because I've never experienced socialism. There are ideas about socialism that seem kind of weird to me, but there are ideas that seem kind of cool. I don't know. I think that if someone explained a lot of different aspects of it to me, that might help me think about it in a better way. I think most people I've talked to about socialism they're not really well equipped to really talk about it in a way that's convincing, at least in my experience. But I don't know if that is just a fault of the people themselves or a fault of the idea as a whole. Do you believe in free will? I don't really like the free will conversation. I don't think it matters if we have free will or not. So it's like not really an interesting conversation to me, because even if we don't have free will, we still ought to behave as if we do. Am I into Star Wars? Not really. I think the franchise, the media franchise as a whole is pretty cool. As far as the movies go, I feel like most of them are bad to average. But the media franchise as a whole, like they've made a couple of really good video games. There's some really cool like comic books and graphic novels, and the idea of it is really cool. But the movies, which I consider to be at the heart of the franchise, are usually not that great in my opinion. Did I like the preseason changes in Viego? Honestly, I'm not really sure what all has been changed. I haven't played in a while. It just, the only thing that is obviously that has been changed is all of the item changes, and I really like the items. Viego seems, I have yet to experience a good Viego, I'll put it that way. So I don't know. Do you believe in ghosts, or do you instead not believe in ghosts? It's a pretty weird way to phrase that. No, I don't believe in ghosts. Do you think the left takes censorship too far? Sometimes, yeah. Who's my favorite author? I don't read enough to have a favorite author, I don't think. Most people who are subscribed to find out what that S thing was, but did they get any closer to finding out? Did they get any closer to finding out? Probably. They probably got closer than they were before. What's your opinion on gun rights? I made a video about gun rights, or about guns, I guess, and the video is called Guns Are Stupid, so you can maybe guess what I think about guns from that. If you're interested in socialism and ins outs, I highly recommend watching Hakim. He's brilliant. Might be worth checking out. Twitter just banned Trump permanently. Do you think similar measures will be taken to keep Trump from inciting, misinforming people? Do I think similar measures will be taken by who? Have I thought of moving out of the United States? I definitely have thought of moving out of the United States. As of right now, I think that is likely to occur. Do you think many people use freedom of speech as an excuse to mistreat others or attack people of certain groups and abuse the idea or concept of free speech? Absolutely, people do that. I think people reference extreme aspects of socialism, which makes it hard to come to a good perspective of what socialism is and what can or cannot do. I mean, that may happen, but I don't think that's what I'm referring to. I think people just don't really... they kind of think about socialism on a very surface level and don't really think about the implications of what that means. And also, a lot of people argue in... It's basically... I think it would be considered begging the question. So it's basically the assumption. It's like when you define your idea as good, so you bake in good as part of the definition of your idea, and you bake in bad as part of the definition of opposing ideas. So what a lot of people do is they say, hey, I like socialism. And you say, well, what if this bad thing happens in socialism? And they say, oh, well, no, if that happens, then it's not what I'm talking about. Or someone might say, hey, I think capitalism is bad. Then someone might say, well, what if we can make capitalism good? And they're like, well, no, if it's good, then it's not capitalism. And I just think that's a pretty like whack way to argue. And it just, you can't really go anywhere when people argue like that. And I think that happens a lot in these discussions. If fascists and Nazis use their speech on a platform to incite violence or do hate speech and whatnot, is it okay to silence them? Or will that give the corporations too much control? I think that anybody that owns a platform should be able to run that platform however they want. If you ask me what I would do, I don't think it's a good look in any way to allow people to incite violence using your platform. So I mean, I completely agree with anyone who wants to stop that. Hate speech is a little bit more complicated because what counts as hate speech is kind of a matter of opinion. You would have to be very careful about that. Where did you go to college? I went to the University of Alabama. I didn't finish it though. Will I ever do a video with ContraPoints? I think that would be beautiful. Well, I have guest starred in a ContraPoints video a long time ago. It's probably not up anymore, but I mean, I would love to, but ContraPoints seems like she is a very busy person, and it seems like she conceives her videos like months in advance, so it would be difficult to even arrange that. Boxers briefs or boxer briefs? I'm a boxer briefs guy. I used to only wear boxers, but at some point I switched to boxer briefs, and that's kind of where I'm at. Am I black? I mean, yeah. I don't know. If you're interested in socialism, I would recommend Second Thought and Thought Slime. I think what a lot of people don't realize is most of these leftist YouTube channels make videos for other leftists. And I think this is a problem with the left, is they kind of assume that everyone kind of already agrees with them. So their content is not really designed to convince people. It's just designed to preach to the choir. So I've seen a lot of these leftist channels, and they're not very charitable or convincing to people who don't already agree with them. Hot takes on Jesse Lee Peterson. I don't really have anything to say about Jesse Lee Peterson. I don't really consider that to be like a serious person. Why don't I just play Minecraft to get them views? Possibility. I don't think that would work for me though, because I've developed an audience based not on video games at all. I'd say hate speech is any sort of attack against people of certain groups and trying to justify violence or inhumane treatment towards people because they belong to a certain group. I think that the second half of that is a little more objective. The first half is very subjective though. The example that I always bring up is people like Martin Luther King Jr. were accused of hate speech. So people can define hate and attack. If someone feels attacked or feels hated, they can always accuse someone of hate speech. What up, Tezonde? Have I traveled internationally? Not really. I was born in Germany. I was an army kid, but I left there, or more accurately, I was taken from there when I was like 1.5 or 2 years old. Don't remember it at all. And the only other time that I've been outside the United States is I went to Panama when I was very young, maybe like 6 or 7 years old. And I visited there for maybe like a week or something. My mom is from Panama, so we were visiting her home country. But I barely remember that. Any opinion on Democrats/independents registering as Republicans in red states to moderate the party? Are you saying that that's a thing that happens, or are you suggesting that as a hypothetical thing that people should do? Because I mean, I think the rules are different in every state, but if you register as a Republican, you have to vote for Republicans, right? I mean, I guess you could choose more moderate or more left-leaning Republicans, but I'm not sure how effective that would be, at least not in this day and age. Why do you like Diet Coke? I'm sorry. I just find it gross. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people don't like diet drinks. Diet Coke is the only diet drink that I really like. I think it's just a matter of acquired taste. I just drank it so much that I got used to it, and now I like it. In fact, I like it more than regular Coke. What makes Hakim different is that he says it how it is. He knows socialism is an unpopular belief, so he tries to explain it from an outsider's perspective, though it depends on the video. Yeah, I mean, it's worth checking out. I haven't. That's one channel I haven't checked out. Do you think humans were created for a reason? If so, why? Well, I don't really go for sort of creationism type stuff, I guess. So I don't think that humans were quote unquote created, and I definitely don't think they were created for a reason. I think we just happen to be here and we get to carve out our own paths. Hi, greetings from Argentina. Greetings. You can vote for whoever you like, but you get to vote in the Republican primary. I think it depends on the state. I'm pretty sure that in some states you have to vote for the party that you're registered in. I could be wrong about that. Not that I think that that's how it should be, but yeah, maybe I'm thinking about the primary though. I guess that means I guess that's what I'm thinking of, yeah. MLK never called for violence or inhumane against anyone, so what you said about... Well, yeah, but I think that hate speech and inciting violence, if you're defining, like you describe them as if they were two different things. If you're saying that the definition of hate speech is inciting violence against people, which a lot of people would say that is a too narrow definition of hate speech. But if you're saying that's what hate speech is, then I agree with you. I think inciting violence against people is pretty straightforward most of the time, and it behooves any platform owner to not allow that on their platform. I think it's a good idea to not let people do that. There's no way for them to audit an individual's vote. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I was just thinking of the primary because when you go vote in the primary in certain states, you like specifically request the Republican or Democrat one. But I guess when you vote in the general election, that wouldn't make any sense. You think kids in school should be taught how slavery/segregation affects today instead of just how the legalization of it ended? Well, sure. I think the whole point of learning history is learning how the implications of how that affects what happens today. Like that's like the main reason I think that history is taught in schools, or at least the main benefit of history being taught in schools. So yeah, but I mean, I guess going back to people registering as Republicans, I mean, that may be one strategy. It'd be interesting to see how that works. It could. Here's the thing about Republicans, and I think the right wing in general. They like to claim people, even if they're like, but even if they differ widely in terms of what they believe. If a whole bunch of people start registering as Republicans, I could totally see the Republican Party, being like, hey, look, fucking 65% of people in X state registered as Republicans. We've got a stronghold in this state, and they could use that as leverage for whatever they want to do. Like, it's a slippery slope, I think, but I could totally see stuff like that happening. Ever attend uni? What did you study? I studied English at the University of Alabama, but I never finished it. What do you think should be the goal of society? I think that's going to be subjective to who lives in the society, but the goal of the society should be to make it livable for the people who live in it, however you do that. If you had to eat one character from A Bug's Life. I don't know. All those bugs look pretty tasty. Many prophets are still claiming Trump will overturn the election even after Biden was inaugurated. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going pretty ham with that. It's pretty bizarre and often frightening. Do you think socialism without authoritarianism has been sufficiently demonstrated? Probably not, but I mean, has any like the I feel like humans have not figured out how to create a equitable society yet in any form. So it just, I don't know, it kind of doesn't matter, it seems like. It seems pretty clear that the ideal society would probably be some kind of hybrid society, and I think that some countries are closer to that than others for sure. But the idea of like a pure socialist country does not seem to have occurred. There's been like very like microcosms of like what was it, like I think it was like Spain or something had a successful anarchy for a couple of years, but it didn't last very long. What lefty YouTube channels do you like? It depends on what you mean by lefty. Do you mean like leftists, as in like socialist, anarchist type people, or just left-wing people? In terms of left-wing people, there's a bunch of them. I mean, ContraPoints, I think, gets brought up in every one of my streams because we have a lot of overlap in fans, and also I think she's like the best YouTuber and definitely one of my favorites. I mentioned Sean earlier. Sean makes a lot of good stuff. And then you could say people like Big Joel. I don't know. I truly don't really know Big Joel's actual political leaning. I don't even know how. I mean, he seems pretty left-wing, but I don't know the whole thing. There's some more news, which is really good. I don't watch that many like straight socialism channels, but I check him out here and there just to like be a little bit informed about what people are talking about. Do you think there are alien civilizations across the universe? I think that it is probable, but I don't have any evidence of that. It just seems, just from a pure like odds situation, that it's likely. But I think that I'm probably agnostic when it comes to that because I just don't have any evidence for it, as far as I can tell. I mean, maybe there's some things out there that I'm just not aware of, but I think as a rule, it's good to not believe in things unless you have evidence of it. Has my opinion on veganism changed since the vid? Not really. I probably, if I made that video now, I'd probably do it differently, but I don't think my opinion has changed. But I also think that people didn't really understand my opinion, which could be my fault. Ivern Skarner bot. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm not good enough at League, but I feel like part of the point of bot lane is to create a sustained damage character for late game, and that's why the ADCs go bot. But I guess if you just somehow stomp the lane, you can just end the game early and you won't need that. Do you think blacks who adopt hood culture vulgarism because of incriminated media being pandered towards us are perpetuating a disenfranchised status within the confines of the American social class? It's possible that that's true, but only insofar as any culture that is realistic and that represents what's going on in the society is perpetuating disenfranchised status. Like, if you are disenfranchised, literally, and you behave in the way that a disenfranchised person does because you are that, it's hard to be mad at you. That's the reality of your life. Well, tell Mary I love her too. Sean is 100% one of my favorite content creators on YouTube. He's crazy toxic on Twitter, though. I think Twitter brings out the worst in all of us. I had to really cool it down on Twitter. I used to go pretty ham on Twitter, but I had to cool it down. Now my Twitter is... I don't even know if my Twitter is that interesting anymore because I just talk about fucking... like video games and sitcoms and random shit. Like, I mean, I still talk about politics every now and then, but I try not to like get in arguments with people anymore. I barely even read Twitter, to be honest. Something about Twitter it just brings out the worst in everybody. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for the kind words. Do you intentionally consume right-wing media to see what the other side is being told? I mean, not a lot. There's sometimes, you know, I think I just kind of consume what's put in front of me sometimes. But yeah, I don't intentionally seek it out. I have like friends that do that. Like, I have a friend that watches Fox News all the time, even though he's not a conservative by any means. He just kind of finds it fascinating. I play Smite instead of League. I used to play Smite. I remember it being pretty fun. If I could get off Twitter, I would immediately. Consider yourself lucky. Consider myself lucky for not getting off Twitter. I just had to just organize my Twitter in a way that was less stressful. Luckily, a thing called TweetDeck exists, and on TweetDeck you can set it up so it only shows you things that you want to see. So you can make it so that it doesn't show you the Twitter feed, which is what I do. I've made a list of people who make pleasant tweets, and I just put it in a list, and that's what I see. That's my Twitter feed. And then I can follow like certain hashtags and stuff like that. But that's kind of my Twitter experience. I don't like read Twitter that much. And I also, unless I make a post specifically to get replies, I don't read replies to my tweets anymore either. Cause it's not that bad, but every now and then you get some weird replies. It was a lot worse in the past. I think because I've changed the way that I tweet, I don't get that many shitty replies anymore, but you know. How has having this channel changed your personal life? My personal life? I don't think my personal life has changed that much. I mean, insofar as having this channel has become my job, and in the way that having a job affects your personal life. I disagree with almost everything Ben Shapiro says, but I listen to him at least 2 or 3 times a week to get an understanding of what the rhetoric being pushed is. I mean, yeah, I think it's anyone's prerogative to do that. I feel like that would just make me upset most of the time. But I often find myself, just by the nature of the space that I'm in, I find myself exposed to a lot of these arguments anyway. So I don't really need to seek them out, I guess. Have you ever thought about learning another language? Yeah, I've been trying to learn Spanish my whole life. I just don't stick with it, but we'll see. Thank you for answering my question about Black culture so as insightful as the answer was. Is your belief that we only disenfranchise ourselves? Society, social, and corporate media have no relation. Well, no, I didn't say that. I mean, a large part of the reason that Black people are disenfranchised is just because of a history and legacy of discrimination, both towards Black people and towards the poor. Discrimination, oppression, that sort of stuff. I think there's something to be said about personal responsibility, but the easier solution would be to tackle the oppression of lower class and minority classes. I mean, that would be the most reasonable and effective solution. But there is something to be said about, you know, personal choice and personal responsibility, and I never want to pretend that that's not a thing. But I think it's a bit much. I think it's a bit rude to claim that that's the only factor. Do you have any advice for young people thinking about going into politics? Like, how can we avoid corruption and be in touch with the people we're trying to help despite privilege we may have? Well, you're just going to have to constantly sort of reassess yourself and reassess your own motivations and values. It's just a constant state of self-reflection. Always be open to learning new things. Never think you have it all figured out. Always try to see where other people are coming from. I think show people charity. Don't assume malice on the part of other people that have disagreements with you. It's really just about self-reflection and compassion. If you go forward with those as your main values, I think you're going to go far. A lot of people don't have those as their main values. Like, if you get into a state where it's all about winning, it's all about teaching people a lesson, it's all about vengeance, if you get into that sort of state, I think that's when you're just going to fall into the same noisy mess that politics is in general. I have always identified among my peers as the Oreo of the group because of my passion for Celtic music and Gaelic culture, war films, sci-fi, and other things. Well, I think it's a little bit problematic to sort of give white people a monopoly on on certain media and culture, like sci-fi. Really, war films. Why does that have to make you an Oreo? Why can't you just like sci-fi and war films? I think that's part of sort of like just the Eurocentrism that kind of permeates many cultures. I think you just like what you like. It doesn't have anything to do with being black or white. Well, I mean, not that it has nothing to do with it, but it's not like there's no like genetic predisposition to liking certain things. Have I ever de-radicalized anyone in my personal life? I don't know for sure. I've gotten emails all the time where people tell me that my videos have caused them to think about things a little more thoughtfully or to reconsider things. But as for, have I completely made people do 180 in their whole disposition? I don't know. It would be hard for me to determine that. What happens when you drink 2 5-hour energy drinks? Do you get 10 hours of energy or 5 hours of double energy? I would guess it'd probably be more of the latter, and then you crash like really hard. Can white people wear like new black hairstyles like edges? I truly don't care what anyone does with their hair. Will I rebraid my locks? I might get them twisted a little bit, but I enjoy the natural freeform look of it. Although there's, some of it is weird, like these little hanging off pieces, like maybe that could be dealt with. I think I also need to wash it. What are my thoughts on Vampire the Masquerade now that I've played for a few months? I mean, I like it a lot. It's very tense. It's a very different experience in D&D. I also think it's really good for, at least in my limited experience, it's really good to help you learn role playing, because it seems to be mostly role playing, like 90% role playing. And not only that, but it's like difficult role playing. Your characters are forced to make very difficult decisions, sometimes decisions which don't have very clear answers, or where all the options are not great. So you have to really think about what your character would do in the situation. Like, you don't really have to think that hard about D&D. You can if you want, but in D&D, your characters are so powerful that you can just be like, fuck it, I just run in. I don't care. I run in. We'll see what happens. You can't do that in Vampire. You might very well just die immediately if you do something like that. Why American cable TV is picking and choosing what TV shows from other parts of the world get aired on American cable TV, and some TV shows from other parts of the world that don't get aired. Don't spam the questions. Please. At least wait to see if I see it. Don't just spam them. Don't spam them back to back like that. It's okay to re-ask a question if I missed it, but don't just spam them back to back before you even are sure that I've seen it or not. But yeah, I mean, TV is just, it's all about networks and contracts. It's just whatever people can grab the rights to. And sometimes maybe a foreign network might not want to sell the rights to their show. Do I have any thoughts on cryptocurrency? I'm not an expert on that. I think it's interesting, but I do think that some people treat cryptocurrency like it's a sure thing, and I think it's very much not a sure thing. Also, some people invest in cryptocurrency like it's like their stocks, which I think is kind of a weird way to go about it. Some people invest in it like just hoping to make money, which I guess is fine to do, but at this point it seems very much like gambling. It's very volatile. So as long as people understand that that's the way it is, then that seems cool. But I think it's very interesting. It's a very, like, the technology, like the blockchain technology and the cryptocurrency technologies, I think it is going to be used in the future. Like, it's too good of a technology to not have a future at all. Is it going to be like life-changing and revolutionary and everyone in the world is going to be using it? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. Speaking of Vampire the Masquerade, the game, next Sunday is the last episode of the first season of our Vampire the Masquerade game. For those that don't know, I play in a Vampire the Masquerade game over on my buddy's Twitch channel. Got his little Twitch community. It's called Carrying Comfort Studios. Y'all should check that out. So I believe next Sunday is the last episode of the first season, and then we're going to take a couple months off. But there will be more content, and maybe even some behind the scenes, or not behind the scenes, but maybe like some one shots or some one-offs related to relating to our story. In the meantime, it's called Iron City by Night. Are you interested in Cyberpunk Red? I mean, I'd like to try out everything. I don't know. I like to try everything at least once. Do I like Nintendo games? If so, with what titles? I mean, there's a lot of Nintendo games. It's hard to say. Like, I don't know if you want me to give a list. I always like the Smash Brothers games. I can tell you that. I'm a big Smash Brothers guy. How do we keep the big Silicon Valley companies accountable? For example, if YouTube started allowing hate speech, what would we do? Well, the easiest way to put pressure on these big companies is to hit them in the wallet, which means to pressure advertisers either to not support them or to pressure them to change if they want their continued support. And the second is just to leave. So with something like YouTube, it's really difficult because YouTube kind of has no competition. So it will be very difficult for people to leave. But if it got really drastic, if it became a really big problem, it might be something that the community has to consider, is a large exodus onto another platform, which a lot of these people are becoming wealthy and resourceful and influential enough to, if they wanted to stick it to YouTube, they could, at least to a small extent. So we'll see. Did I see Donald Trump announce he's establishing the office of the former president? I did not see that. Is that a thing? I haven't played Doom Eternal. Do I like board games? I mean, I like the idea of board games. I mean, I don't play that many, so I can't really name like a favorite. I know one that me and friends always play a lot is the Betrayal at the House on Haunted Hill, or whatever it's called. That one's pretty fun. That's one that I played several times. But as far as just board games in general, I haven't played that many. I played a little bit of Arkham Horror, I think it is. That one's really fun. Betrayal at House on the Hill, that's what it's called. Why do you believe an equitable society can exist within capitalism? Not trolling, just wondering. I don't know. I feel like the question implies that you think that it can't, and it would probably be easier to explain, to address the argument that it can't. So if you explain why you think it can't, because usually that implies a narrow definition of what capitalism is, and I think that's usually what happens when I'm talking to people who ask that question, is they have a very limited imagination about what capitalism is or can be. And I think a lot of people, when they say the word capitalism, they specifically mean American style capitalism, and obviously this is one country that does capitalism, and in fact it's probably the country that does it the worst. So generally, I just like people to define their terms first. that's just like one of the problems in these debates is people have this I talk about this all the time. People think of a term or a label, they have a very specific idea of what that is in their head, and that idea might be different than what other people are talking about. How do you limit your political consumption without growing out of touch? I want to learn about the political situation, but it's frustrating and taxing to not be able to do enough to help. I think you just have to find good sources that don't ruin your life. Like, for example, Twitter. Don't get your news from Twitter. That's a good idea. Don't get your news from YouTube, because it's mostly sensationalized, usually very associated with very weird takes, usually very, very biased. So finding decent sources, I guess, is a good idea. But politics it's frustrating. So it's always a trade-off. If you're going to limit your political consumption for your own sort of sanity, that is in effect going to make you a little bit less informed. That's just the trade-off. So you have to choose what you care more about. I love Smash. Who's your main? In Smash Ultimate, I main Ike. Do I like to go thrift shopping? I used to go thrift shopping pretty frequently, but I haven't more recently. I think the pandemic probably has a lot to do with that, but yeah. You gotta stop spamming questions. Where do you... I want to expand my landscape of knowledge in race and hate politics. Where do I start? I want to contribute towards the progressive side of the Black America. What exactly should I do? What exactly should you do? I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. If you want to become more informed, where do you start? Just Google. Just go to Google and look stuff up. Go to the library. Becoming informed about stuff is not that hard, and I think it's interesting the way people talk about it as if it's like this really daunting thing. And I guess it's kind of daunting because it requires effort and work. But literally just type stuff into Google. We Fit Main. I think generally more diversity is probably good in most situations. I think you're in a D&D now, and I've tried playing, but it's hard for me to get in character and make an interesting character. Any advice? Well, I think that as with anything, you shouldn't expect to be really amazing at it until you had a lot of practice. But I mean, there's different ways that you can approach it. I think some of it is just going to be you, like, I don't know exactly what the issue is, why it's hard. Like if you're embarrassed or anxious, or you think that it's bad or something, and it's kind of just gonna have to require you to get over that, which I guess is easier said than done. So, I mean, I think some things you could try is you can just you can make a character that is basically just like you. So just make a character that would do and say the things that you would say. I think that's what a lot of people do when they're first starting out. So, and that should be fairly easy to play because you just say what you would say. Also, another thing you could do is if you're afraid of saying something dumb or saying something embarrassing, you could just make a character that's dumb and embarrassing. And that way it doesn't matter if you say something dumb or embarrassing, because that's what the character would do, because the character is dumb and embarrassing. So those are different ideas you could do, at least to start with, and just to get into the habit of doing it. And then maybe over time you can become more comfortable trying out different characters. KFC console, is that actually real? Is it KF console or the KF console? I admire your calm and reasoned approach to sensitive questions. Who is a big influence that helped shape your approach to learning and rhetoric? I don't know. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It's hard to say. I think probably my parents are a big part of that. And then other things, I mean, as far as YouTubers, the Vlogbrothers really inspired my whole approach to YouTube and argumentation. The Vlogbrothers, Hank and John Green, they're all about sort of compassion and open-mindedness and that sort of thing. So that influenced me a lot. And then just people that, you know, that I admire and have admired growing up. I always bring up Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers. It's kind of silly to bring him up, but I'm like I have always been super inspired by the way that he carried himself, and just the way that he just was so devoted to children and to treating everyone with kindness and respect, no matter what, at all times. To me, that has really resonated with me. And I'm not saying that I'm like 100% perfect at that, but that those kind of people are always the people that I have the most admiration for. You said to type anything into Google, which I guess makes sense, but I want to know, what are your reputable sources for knowledge? Also, this is a stupid question, but do you trust Wiki? I mean Wikipedia? I think Wikipedia is generally accurate. I think they've even done analysis of Wikipedia and determined that Wikipedia is like 95% accurate most of the time. I think Wikipedia is fine as a starting point. And generally, Wikipedia will have many sources at the bottom of it, so you can always go check those sources if you want to verify anything or get more information about anything. So I think Wikipedia is fine, is a perfectly fine place to start. In terms of reputable sources for knowledge, I don't really think that it works like that, because if you're looking for a specific topic, it's going to have specific sources. There's very few sources that are just like sources of knowledge on anything that you need. So if you're looking up like Black history, for example, you're going to have to find very specific books and texts about Black history. There's not going to be one specific source that's just good across the board. Which is why I recommend just doing some research and Googling things and going to the library, asking people. Cool thing now is with social media, a lot of times you can find people who are experts in a thing and literally directly message them and ask them questions. That's a thing you can do these days. Like, you can find some PhD sociology professor who's like the leading expert on some topic and just literally email them and be like, hey, I just had some questions. Or ask them to like hop in a Zoom call with you or something. A lot of times they'll say yes. Any advice for someone who wants to join the YouTube game? I've been asked this a few times and I give the same advice every time. It depends on if you know how to make videos well already or not. If you don't, you should not expect to be good at it to begin with, and you should give yourself a lot of time to learn how to be good at it, and that should be the first thing you work on. Just make a lot of videos. Don't be a perfectionist. Just pump out videos. Keep making them. Sometimes you'll still build an audience if the ideas are good, but the videos themselves eventually have to become good. And if you don't have a lot of experience in that, it's going to take a long time for you to become decent at making videos, and you should give yourself a long time. I think one recommendation I've seen is make 100 videos before you even think about anything else in terms of YouTube. And I also think in terms of time, it could take years. Take at least a year. If you already have experience in video editing or anything, or video making, or even performance or writing, you might have a leg up on other people. And in that case, you can start to think about what your actual goals with the channel are. Like, if you just want to build a niche little audience and have some community discussions, or if you are trying to start a business or make a career out of it. So you kind of have to decide what your goals are. But I will say, if you are getting into YouTube because you think it's a good way to make money, I would say back out now, because if money is your main motivator, you're probably not going to succeed, because most people who make YouTube videos have to make them without getting paid for years before they actually get paid, and then for more years before they actually make enough to make it a job. You may get super lucky and blow up overnight, but there's a very low chance of that happening. And usually the people who that does happen to are the people who already have experience in either marketing or performing or video editing. People who already kind of know what they're doing. Vosh definitely didn't do it in 1 year. Vosh has been around for several years, but I think Vosh did blow up very quickly, but he had a strategy. I don't know his background, but I do know that he was a member of Destiny's audience, and he pretty much copied Destiny's exact model, like down to the letter. So he had a strategy of, and I'm not even saying that's bad, I'm just saying this is what he did. He had a strategy, here's a formula that works, I'm going to copy it directly. Now, Vosh clearly, I don't know if it's a natural talent or if it's something that he's worked on, but he's clearly very good at speaking, and he's clearly very good at, making arguments. He's good at debating. So he already had some kind of talent in that area. But in terms of like creating his channel and stuff, he clearly had a strategy for that. Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't know when he, I mean, I guess I'll take your word for it, but he people knew who he was when he made his channel, if that's the case, because he's definitely been around for more than 2 years. And so if you already have people who know who you are, then you already have a leg up in that sense. But I mean, yeah, I think that if you have like if you have a strategy for growth, then I think you probably should have a strategy. But when you're first starting, I think that only works if you are very confident in what your content is going to be. And most people who are first starting do not have that kind of confidence in what their content is going to be. So that's why I say you should focus on your content. But it seems like Vosh was already very confident in what his content was going to be. So he could focus on the strategy of building his audience. And if you have that, then sure, yeah, do that. Basically, that's kind of what I was saying. It depends on what level you're at. Sending love from Baltimore. Appreciate that. The debate bro thing seems to be a good model. I mean, maybe if you're good at it. Or if you're like super entertaining, I guess. However, I am probably going to end the stream here in about 10 minutes. It's time for me to eat dinner. But I don't know. I think that, and I'm only a moderately successful YouTuber anyway. I mean, I don't know if I'm the expert on this, but I've tried so many different things. I've had ups and downs, and I've been doing this for a long ass time. So there are certain things that appear to me to work, but who knows? You know, maybe there's something I'm missing, and the people who have, 400, 500K, a million subs, maybe they're doing something on another level that I don't even know about. I can't even conceive of yet. I did have a sandwich. It was just kind of like a hold me over snack for the stream. Wasn't a full meal. It's time to eat the full meal. Really, the secret to YouTube is just making good videos and making good videos consistently and clickbaiting your thumbnails and titles. That's the gist of how to succeed on YouTube. Obviously, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's pretty much it. Sometimes it takes years for that to pan out to anything. I think usually what people struggle with is like two extremes. There's people who put no effort into playing the YouTube game. They just want to make their content the way that they want to make it. They want to make it's like their art, it's their creation, so they're very passionate about making it a certain way, but they put no effort into the YouTube aspect of it. They don't try to get in the algorithm. And honestly, that's what you have to do. Some people can do it seamlessly without thinking about it that much. I think most people have to think about it. So I think that's some people's problem. And other people, they go too far in the other direction. They spend all their time trying to clickbait and make all these, shocking thumbnails and titles. But then when you click on the video, the content is boring or stupid or bad. The production value is super low. It's not that thought-provoking, not that entertaining. So they go too far in the other direction. You got to have both if you want to succeed on YouTube. And then you have to be consistent. You have to make videos frequently. I do think that political YouTube, I don't know about other genres, but like the political social aspect of YouTube seems to tolerate, well, I'll say the video essay portion of YouTube, and to some extent the offshoots of that, other political types of videos, seems to have a higher tolerance for infrequent videos. Like for example, you think of people like Lindsay Ellis, ContraPoints. They make videos sometimes. H Bomber Guy. Sometimes there's videos are like 2 to 3 months apart, but people seem to be okay with that. I guess because when the videos do come out, they're really good, and well made and long. So that seems to work out in certain genres. In other genres, I don't think that works. Like if you had a gaming channel, I don't think you can make a video once every 2 months. A video platform that has entirely randomly generated videos with no algorithm at all. You mean all of the videos are randomly generated, as in no user input? That would be really interesting. Imagine going super viral super early on and not being ready for all the attention. Yeah, I think that happened to a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like Tazon Day was in the chat earlier today, which is pretty cool. I wouldn't be surprised if that was his experience. Drama channels seem to take off so long as they can crank out 20 minutes daily. Yeah, I think drama channels, that's a very easy way to get into the algorithm because it lends itself to clickbait, and people like drama, people like conflict, so people will read stuff, people will click it. It kind of sucks though because a lot of it is like really messy and it affects real people's lives and shit like that. But if all you care about is the clicks and the views, it could work out. Do you have any advice for dealing with depression? I've been caught in a rut. Well, I'm no mental health expert. So I would say that the number one thing that you should try to do is to talk to someone who is a mental health expert, if possible, or talk to your doctor. That's the number one thing I would recommend. Beyond that, I would just say look into things like meditation. Exercise helps sometimes. If you adjust your lifestyle and living situation, sometimes that helps. Like if you eat healthier, drink more water, sometimes that helps. If you spend less time in stressful situations, spend less time around toxic people, that helps sometimes. But beyond that, I'm not an expert on that, so you'd have to talk to someone who is. Maybe crowdsource some answers on the internet somehow. Ask friends of friends, things like that. The videos are user generated, but the algorithm just randomly suggests them. I mean, that would be an interesting project, but the problem is that it probably would be, the site would make no money, and so it probably wouldn't last that long because it wouldn't be able to afford to host all of the videos. Do you have a lot of smart people? You have a lot of smart people in your audience. Why not start a video making contest and review the content? Well, I'm a little iffy about things like that because it basically is asking people to do work for free. But if people, I mean, it depends. Like I'm always open to, if someone has a question about video making advice and things like that, you can just ask. Like, send me an email. I'll probably answer eventually. But I don't really necessarily want to just sit down and review like dozens of videos. Yeah, Chocolate Rain guy. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. We've been streaming for a couple of hours. If you haven't watched my last video, it's called I'm Taking a Break, but it's basically just a long Q&A video where I answer a lot of questions. Some of the questions were answered also in this chat, but there's other questions if you want to know more random things about my thoughts and views and hobbies and interests. I am currently on a kind of a YouTube break, so there's not going to be any videos for a while, but I'm still going to try to stream once or twice a week. Probably, well, Mondays and Fridays will be the days that I'll stream. But yeah, that's kind of all we got going on now in terms of like my social media and links and stuff like that. Just check the description below the video. And I think that's pretty much it. If you want to ask more questions, you can email me or you can check out my Curious Cat. I think all those links are below. But I will see you all next time. Hopefully Friday. I'll be back to stream on Friday, so hopefully I'll see you then. And I'll probably stream a little bit earlier in the day than I did today. It's pretty late for people who aren't in America, so I'll try to stream a little earlier. Anyway, I'll see y'all then. Bye.